Hi, I'm Katie Tamlin, and welcome back to EcoDev. Today we are talking about food choice and how we can make choices regarding the food that we purchase and the food that we consume that are slightly more sustainable. Speaking of biodiversity, the third area in which we are going to talk about the impact that our food choices have on sustainability is around biodiversity specifically. There is a lot of focus on biodiversity at the moment. The science is pretty unmistakable. Species are dying at 1,000 times the rate that they did before humans were on this planet, and at 10 times the rate that's deemed safe by the scientific community. Wildlife populations have fallen by 69% since 1970. We are losing pollinators at a rate that is making it virtually impossible to be able to rely on natural pollination in future. So we are seeing humans having to pollinate plants manually in areas where the populations of natural pollinators, insects, birds, um, would normally carry out that function, and that is worrying. It's worrying altruistically because, of course, we will struggle to rebuild those populations if these trends continue. But it's also worrying in a selfish perspective because it's going to impact crop yields. It's simply not as efficient to have people walking around pollinating different plants as it would be to have ants or bees or birds pollinating those plants for us. So I think there's a real concern amongst the scientific community that losing those pollinators will certainly impact crop yields in future and the efficiency of food supply chains. So one of the things I like to think about in my food choices is how do we promote biodiversity? And we talked about farming methods, and certainly similar to the farming method choice, by choosing organically farmed food, then you can rest assured that there will be more of a positive impact on pollinators, on biodiversity in the soil, biodiversity in the land on which those items are farmed. I certainly recognize from my own limited gardening how frustrating it is to lose a crop, however big or small, to a pest. I have battled slugs in my garden, plenty, and plenty of other animals that like to eat the things that I grow. And I can't even imagine what it's like for farmers who are trying to make ends meet and battling pests as well. So it's only natural that that when left entirely to free market forces, farmers are going to use pesticides in order to increase their yields and therefore increase their profit, especially if if they're being paid, pretty low prices for food, for the food and crops that they produce. So I think it's where we can and where budgets allow, choosing organic produce also ensures less pesticides are used in the production, if any. I mean, there are few circumstances in which organic farmers can use natural pesticides, but certainly you don't have the type of chemical additions to the environment when you are farming organically. And the lack of chemicals being pumped into the soil or into the air where crops are being produced means that the species living there, the birds, the insects, the worms, every part of that ecosystem is better protected from us. We're not inadvertently poisoning the pollinators when we try to control weeds, for example. And so by choosing goods that are produced organically, we have a double positive impact. One, less chemical fertilizers being needed because the soil remains more naturally healthy, and two, better biodiversity preservation in the soil, in the air, in the surrounds of where those items are farmed.